I've selected the best new makeup releases and we are going to discuss about them now. I will refer to a few Instagram accounts, Chic Profile Official and Angel Naked One. Other accounts I will mention during the video. So let's start with the new Tom Ford Soleil Eye and Cheek Palette 2022 Summer Edition. Actually, there's one of my Instagram friends that has already the palette. So go check there because she already has swatches. That palette is quite light, neutral light. I like the combination of the shades, but honestly is nothing special for me. I already have one palette from Tom Ford from years ago, and honestly these are so expensive. I paid something like $160, and then on top of that I also paid customs because I live in Europe. So I want to do that mistake again. Tom Ford is always overpriced, but there are some things that I still think they are worth a splurge. I recently purchased the Cheek Duo. But as for this palette, I have a perfect alternative that is this Charlotte Tilbury face and eye palette that actually is better than I expected, and I can get similar looks with this Charlotte Tilbury palette compared to that Tom Ford palette. And this is even more complete because this Charlotte Tilbury one, because it also has a powder, face powder and a bronzer, while the Tom Ford has a quad of eyeshadows, while here there's a trio, and has a big highlighter and cheek product. But I don't care too much. I don't use highlighters anymore almost, so, and I'm perfectly fine with this palette. Actually, this cheek product is one of my favorite in my collection. It's an amazing blush, and that's the reason why I was thinking about reselling this palette, just because I have also another one and they are quite similar from Charlotte Tilbury, and I wanted just to keep one. But I love so much this blush that I don't want to get rid of this palette. So this is actually my travel palette, and I'm quite happy I re-evaluated this palette. So I would actually recommend it. You get the signature Charlotte Tilbury look, and is actually, as I said, quite similar, maybe a little bit less golden compared to that new Tom Ford palette. So I'm pretty fine with my collection. I don't need that palette. Next, the new Guerlain eyeshadows from summer 2022. They're called Ombre G Quads. These seem actually the Guerlain counterpart of the Tom Ford Wet and Dry formula, because the eyeshadows are not in a regular metallic pan, but are in what it seems a baked gelée formula. Now, if you say baked gelée formula or gel to powder formula, it doesn't mean anything. But that gel to powder formula includes different type of finishes. So I have here two of my favorite Tom Ford palettes. These are recent purchases, and since I worked from home, you'd see them, they're almost pristine, but I can assure you that once I go back to work, especially this fall, I will use these a lot. So these are actually my latest purchases from Tom Ford, and this was the glorious double indemnity that was discontinued for a reason that I don't understand, because it was a perfect amazing cool tone palette. And this is a metallic denim, but that again is a nice palette. I had to import it from US because it's very difficult to find it on in Europe. Anyway, these two palettes have my favorite color stories, and they have these pans. They are raised because they have this liquid pressed formula with a plastic mesh underneath the eyeshadow. And the new Guerlain ones, they have the same look. So I expect, if not a similar formula, but something that is close enough to these. The problem is that while I love these kind of shades by Tom Ford, I really like the color combination of Tom Ford eyeshadows. You can see they are not usual shades. Okay, you see a black, of course, this is quite usual, but it has some sparkles. And then you have these desaturated colors. They are not the usual colors. Also, these ones are very nice. The offering of Guerlain is less inspiring, actually. So if I see the colors available, I'm not inspired by anything. There's one palette, 011 Imperial Moon, that seems actually close to the Nude Dip by Tom Ford. That actually is a palette that I have decluttered. And the other ones are all warm. There's the 9040 Royal Jungle that is inspiring, but yeah, I have this one. It is the VISEART Praline, and come on, the color story is not so different. Actually, this is a combination of 3 shades from Praline, and this shade is from the Lila. I think it was in the other quad, just to have more contrast. But I don't expect the color story to be so different from this one. So since I have this one, I really don't need that Royal Jungle. Doesn't seem anything special. And I also have Tonso Browns here, you see, from the Tom Ford offering. So really don't need that palette. And then there's this Mystic Peacock. That's actually the one that intrigues me the most. And you can check Tavia's, so Cheek Profile official page, because she has a comparison of that palette, that she already owns that palette, and she compared it with this palette by Tom Ford, exactly this palette. So check her content, check her Instagram page to see the comparison swatches. But my conclusion is that this is better. I really like this color combination, and so I'm perfectly fine with this. And that aqua green that you see in the Guerlain Mystic Peacock, come on, I already have this one by DIOR that I picked it up because it was again a gel to powder formula, and they have these 2 shades that, come on, between these 2 and this one, I'm perfectly covered for the few days when I have, you know, I'm inspired to use one of these shades. So I really don't need that one again. So I don't see anything special or unique that I can't dupe with my collection, my IN collection. I can conclude that I have a better version of that on all of those eyeshadows. Okay, next we'll go to the Suqqu offering. Suqqu is releasing a fall collection that includes a lot of things: eyeliners, nail polishes, stick highlighters, lipsticks, blushes, and the quads. We are talking about the quads here, and maybe I will touch the other items in a future video. Among the quads, there are 4 new quads in total. 3 of them are permanent, and one 117 is a limited edition. The limited edition palette is what caught my attention. I think I will skip the permanent palettes. I don't like their color stories, simply as that. The quad 09, I find it too close to the warm quad. I believe it was a 113 in the pre-summer collection. There's always a purple, a gold, and a pink. I don't like these colors. I have them already in the Suqqu new formula. I'm not interested. And then there's an olive green that honestly, I don't think it will turn out green. It will be more a gray green, and so not inspired by that. But unfortunately, I'm still with Suqqu. I'm always intrigued by their limited editions, and there's this palette 117 that is promising. There's this sage green that, if you have noticed, is recurring in the newest palettes. Think about the new Anastasia Nouveau palette. So that sage green in the limited edition 117 Suqqu Quad is paired with pinkish browns and also a beautiful warm brown that is placed next to it. I have a LUNASOL palette that it's not so different. It has this combo of sage green and a brown that is quite close to the one from Suqqu. So I believe that these two shades would be quite similar. I bet the Suqqu one will be lighter. This green is desaturated, is amazing, is my perfect sage green. Let me show you here. It has that glowy formula that is closer to the older formulation of Suqqu, the design in Colorize, while the latest formulation is called Signature Colorize. I expect the Suqqu shade to be different from this, to be lighter. But this actually pops up. You can really tell it's a green. Not sure about that green by Suqqu. So I will buy it, but I'm afraid I will be a little bit disappointed by that or underwhelmed, as it happens sometimes with Suqqu, because I believe that the green would be lighter, the brown would be very similar to this one, and then there are two neutral shades, one pinkier one and one taupe, that maybe they are not very distinguishable compared to my skin tone. So I much prefer the combo that I found here with this beautiful duochrome. And finally, those Chanel Tweed quads. Guys, those are intriguing. They are again in that baked gelée gel to powder formula. The colors have something unique. Again, there's one neutral palette that seems Chanel version of that iconic nude dip by Tom Ford, and I'm not interested in that. As I said, I've decluttered my nude dip because it was too frosty on my eyes. But there's that, I believe it's 01 palette that has those rich browns that again can be duped by this, but I think I will pick that palette. And I have to say, Chanel is releasing interesting things that capture my attention. I haven't purchased Chanel for years, and this year I've already purchased quad and an highlighter, and I never purchased highlighters, so they're not particularly innovative in terms of color stories, but I think that palette will be a staple palette. I'm not fond of a Chanel formula, the classical powder formula, but keep in mind that these limited edition have a different formula, and this particularly is a baked gelée formula, just like the Mediterraneen palette. This palette, that was actually the one that I purchased this year. I expected the Tweed palette to be a darker version, smokier version than this. And guys, I love this formula by Chanel, and to be honest, to me they are all the same. I couldn't tell the difference between a baked gelée by DIOR, a baked gelée by Tom Ford, and this one. There can be slightly differences in the shimmer particles. So for example, the one by Tom Ford, the metallic denim here, this is chunkier. You can see the size of the shimmer. Let me show you better. You see, this is a chunkier shimmer, and there are, okay, this palette actually is a little bit, is all chunkier, but and there are other shades that are creamier, like these old ones. These are smoother and creamier. So when you say baked gelée, you don't say anything, because different finishes are included within the same formula, right? This is Tom Ford, the two shades of the metallic denim, and I would like to show you better the, you know, the particles, because the trend now is towards these chunkier particles. They are more three-dimensional, but I like the smoothness of the old formulas like these that are glowy without any glitter. So these are all baked gelée, and some shades are heavier in shimmers, other shades are creamier like this. But yeah, I wouldn't tell actually. These to me are made in the same lab, and I believe also the new Guerlain quads are from the same lab. These are my selected new releases, and out of these 4 I will purchase the Suqqu, and I think it will bring something new in my collection, and I will purchase another Chanel one, the Tweed one, if I can find them, of course, because those items, I think there will be a lot of requests, and they are all limited edition. If you find that my reasoning about palettes adds value to you, please subscribe so I will be encouraged to bring you more content. I explain in detail my mindset in this video, so I would recommend to watch it to understand the basis behind my reasoning. So see you there, bye!